Story 1. Now that I am an adult, I realize just how wonderful my father really is. Not just in comparison to others, but he is an objectively amazing father. He taught us children the hard life lessons while still protecting us. He taught us to be self-sufficient and independent. He taught us to work hard and to not give up just because things get challenging. He worked tirelessly to make sure we got to go on vacation and experience life. He taught me to hunt, fish, and fix a car. He also taught me to garden and grow my own vegetables, and how to take care of livestock and other animals with compassion. However, he also treated me more like a son than a daughter. I only wish that my father would have acknowledged that I am a girl, and it is okay for me to like dressing up, and that it is okay to throw like a girl. Granted, I got a full ride to college for sports, and that is partly because I had to hang with the boys and my dad didn't want me to be a great female player, but just a great player in general. I think he complicated things for me only in the sense that it is extremely difficult for me to date. I am either too intimidating to strangers or one of the boys to people I know. I think I lost my feminine side because I am so close to my dad, and he was slightly dismissive of my emotional side. I had to be tough and stoic. I suppose I shouldn't complain. I just feel like if my dad were less strict and treated me more like a daughter than a son, I would fit in more. Maybe I would be able to get a date instead of always just being a bro. That being said, I am thankful for the life skills he provided and the protective eye he still has watching over his baby girl. Edit. News update. Got a lot of confidence from all the positivity, and now I have got a date coming up with a guy who doesn't know me or my brothers. And I get to make an actual first impression without being seen as one of the boys beforehand. Wish me luck. He seems kind and intelligent. I am really excited to see what happens. Even if it doesn't work out, it's a good step out of my passive ways. Story 2. My dad actually was an amazing man, and I think very special as a dad. He really encouraged our independence and our desire to learn about anything and everything, which I think a lot of dads forget to do. He focused a lot on education, and as a result, my brothers and I were reading very, very early, which helped us be interested in things like the science museum and the zoo and any sort of science program on television. He used to just let us run free as kids because he knew how important it was for us to savor actually being kids. When I was little, I made a mud pit in the backyard. We had a hole that our Weimaraner dug, and it got filled with water, so 3-year-old me thought it would make the perfect mud pit. After about half an hour of playing by myself, my dad came outside and saw me, naked, covered in mud, in the pit. Where other parents probably would have been angry, he laughed and grabbed the camera. As we got older, he encouraged our independence and hobbies. For my brothers, it was gaming, and they made a lifelong career from their interest in gaming. For me, it was theater, then science, and eventually wildlife. My dad wanted to be a biologist, but never had the drive or money to finish college. So I used to teach him all about genetics and about how the evolutionary trees of various organisms had changed. He knew a lot, but wanted to know all about how science had changed and what the new concepts were. He outfitted me with field gear, and when we would go camping or hiking together, we would turn rocks and look for reptiles and amphibians. He helped me with a plant project a few years ago, and that was probably the most fun we had. He just never discouraged our interests and passions, which is so important. This doesn't really have a point anymore. I think I just needed to write this out. My dad died 3 weeks ago very unexpectedly, and no man on earth could rival how amazing he was. He truly is responsible for our independence and wonder of the world, and I think more dads need to be like him. Dads, let your daughters and sons learn freedom. Let them explore the world and make an effort to be interested in their interests no matter how weird or silly you think they might be. Let your kids be kids and do silly things sometimes. Also, always let your daughter know that you have her back. Whatever silly decision she makes, trouble she runs into, or foolish man she dates or gets involved with, you've got her, and you'll be there for her when things fall apart. My dad was so good about that. Story 3. It's great that you're extending the offer to spend time together, but when you invite your child to the garage to help with something, actually have them help with something. For context, my dad would be working on his boat engine or something, and he'd say, "Come help me with this." And then I'd sit on a bucket for 20 minutes watching him in silence, and finally wander off out of boredom. Looking back, It's great he wanted to spend time with me, and I appreciate that, but being present and being involved are two different things. Story 4. Treating every boy interested in your daughter as your enemy does both of you a disservice. My dad was very overprotective. Anytime a boy had a crush on me, he would be immediately added to my dad's list of disliked people, even if he was perfectly kind and respectful. After a certain point, I just stopped listening to my dad's complaints. In my eyes, he had lost the right to give input about my relationships. Unfortunately, when I was 17, I became entangled in an abusive relationship. My dad hated the guy, but since he also hated every one of my previous suitors, I didn't interpret his concerns as legitimate. On top of that, since he was so busy trying to prevent me from having relationships, he never talked to me about what a healthy relationship looks like. Story 5. Unwanted sexual attention from grown men doesn't always come from strangers. It comes from family friends too. Pay attention to your friends' behaviors and comments around your kids. My dad cut off a longtime friend after catching him leering at me in a bathing suit at a pool party when I was only 12. Story 6. Make sure she is not afraid to bring home the person she is dating. Encourage open communication about relationships, dating, and respect. If your daughter is afraid you're going to be waiting on the porch with a shotgun or you're going to read the riot act to whomever they bring home, they are more likely to sneak around behind your back. It's not the threat of physical harm that is the issue. Most people would likely agree they've heard a version of this and laughed it off as a joke. It's the sense of doubt that it creates in young women. The feeling that they are not capable of making good decisions on their own when it comes to the relationships they choose to pursue. We keep preaching that we want our daughters to feel empowered to make their own choices. It starts by removing the need for them to choose partners that meet your approval. Instead, empower them by teaching them how to navigate relationships, have the tough and uncomfortable conversations, and let them make a few bad decisions so they can appreciate and identify what healthy male interaction looks like. My dad is a great guy. He just said the things that dads were supposed to say 20 years ago. It always made me uncomfortable, but I didn't know how to express myself. That's what is so great about this thread. When you know better, you do better. Story 7. How to put hair in ponytails or brush long hair in general. Just thinking about it 20 years later makes my scalp hurt. Also, to include the daughter in stereotypically male housework. I can cook and load a dishwasher like my life depends on it, but I can't do any sort of maintenance like putting up a picture frame or unclogging a sink. Story 8. If you spend a good portion of your daughter's childhood talking about how much better and easier a son would be to raise, do not be surprised when your daughter grows up confiding almost exclusively in her mother and never in you. Story 9. My dad actually did a pretty good job of raising me as a single dad, as I am pretty sure my stepmother contributed nothing to my upbringing. The only thing I guess he could have done better was to be more knowledgeable about what he called female issues. He didn't really understand periods, cramps, and all that associated nonsense because when he was growing up, he was never taught about them and men didn't need to learn. It was just unpleasant to him. Story 10. When you do something wrong, apologize. Don't just try to ignore what we just fought about and try to be our friend 15 minutes later. When you try to ignore our problem, it hurts us. It makes us angry. We won't want to be friends. My friends and I have almost all had this issue with our dads. The worst thing, though, is when you try to have someone else apologize and fix things for you. My dad has asked me to be this middleman for my younger sister, my friend has been asked by her dad, and some others have mentioned their dad sending in their mom. It doesn't make things better, and a lot of the time makes that middleman lose respect for you. Respect us as people and apologize to us. Story 11. How to build and support a healthy self-esteem and lifestyle habits. The things you say and the way you treat her can leave a lasting impression on your daughter. I was a latchkey kid in an Asian household filled with cheap convenience foods, such as 3-for-1 hot dog buns and Chinese crackers, and there was a lack of income for activities outside of watching TV at home. As a result, I grew up overweight and uninformed about healthy lifestyle habits. Since my tween years, my dad constantly commented on my body and bluntly told me I would never find a boyfriend. If he saw me in a t-shirt or shorts, he would remark on how big my arms or thighs looked. Now, in my late 20s, I still refused to wear tank tops, short sleeves, skirts, dresses, or shorts because of that idea ingrained in my thought process. The link between being overweight and being single still has a significant presence in my mind. My dad passed away last year from his own struggles with his health, including cancer, diabetes, and hypertension. Since then, I have made my own lifestyle changes and attended therapy. I am about halfway to my weight goal and have discovered a love for hiking, spin classes, and yoga. However, trying to build self-esteem through reframing my thoughts and positive self-talk has been the hardest struggle of all. Story 12. Do not just assume your daughter will not be interested in your activities because they are not stereotypically girly or because once, as a small child, she did not want to do it. Not wanting, for example, to go hiking or fishing when I was 5 years old does not mean I never want to do it. Keep trying to get your kids involved in your life and do not just give up. You are teaching them not to share things about themselves and losing the chance to bond over something you love. Story 13. When your daughter is going through puberty and starts getting her period, do not dismiss the things she is experiencing. There are all sorts of new hormones swirling around, and they are going to affect her mood. She is getting periods, and they are probably going to hurt. Being in pain makes you grumpy, but do not attribute every instance of anger or bad temper to being on your period. Maybe her mother does not have bad ones, or maybe you have never thought about it because your wife is a grown woman who has learned to deal with her periods and the associated mood swings and pains and has moved on. Your daughter has not yet. Be a little more thoughtful and help teach her ways to manage what she is feeling. If she is in a lot of pain and it does not change after a while, take her to a doctor. Maybe nothing is wrong and she has just been unlucky, but she could have endometriosis or ovarian cysts. Advocate for her at the doctor. Many women have trouble finding doctors who will listen to them about their pain, and it is very hard to advocate for yourself when you are only 14 and experiencing severe pain. Story 14. Don't be scared of having your picture taken. If your daughter wants to take pictures of you, or especially with you, let her. My dad died when I was 13 years old, and then I realized that all of his hiding from the camera meant I was left with only a handful of photos, and he wasn't in any of our home videos. You don't realize how important they can be until you aren't able to make new ones. Story 15. That it is best to have a personal bond with your father, a hobby or activity that's just the two of you, no matter how small, and not just him being there when the whole family is together. When our outdoor cats would get ticks, I quickly alerted my father and we removed them. For him, it was a chore, and for me, it was the one thing that was us doing something together. Story 16. That not every instance of anger or sadness on my part was because it must be that time of the month. My dad is a great guy all around, but used to bring that up, even jokingly, way too often. Story 17. There are some men and boys who are perfectly decent when other men are around, but are not nice to women and girls when there are no other men present. Believe your daughter about her own lived experiences, even if you didn't witness them yourself. And believe other women about their own lived experiences as well. If your daughter grows up hearing you talk about how your mother and sister were clearly overreacting when they said your childhood neighbor was creepy, because after all, he was always perfectly decent to you, your daughter is not going to come to you when your own neighbor is creepy to her when you're not around. Story 18. Our standards of how we expect to be treated by men come from how you treat our mothers. Show her kindness and we will expect kindness. Treat her poorly and we assume being treated poorly is normal. My first Reddit award, thank you stranger. And to everyone else, I'm glad to hear this may have provided some of you insight into why you or a loved one are the way you are. This applies to all genders and family dynamics. Story 19. I'm not sure about girls in general. To me, I'd rather have had a dad who was there than a dad who was successful and a workaholic. When your dad is gone, you remember the silly little things. The bedtime stories he told you, playing with you on the beach, having ice cream together. Be a father who is present in your daughter's life. Play with her when she's small. Tell her stories. When she's older, listen to her. Take an interest in her interests even if they sound silly. Take an interest in her life in general. That's all anyone can ask. Story 20. I have the most wonderful father in the world. This post isn't going to be about things I wish he knew, but more about things he did that were amazing when I was growing up, since I'm seeing a lot of fathers with little girls commenting that they're reading this post. My dad never hesitated to do girly things with me. He was the one who took me school shopping. We would often visit Starbucks and then pick up chocolate-covered strawberries afterward. He would fix my hair for school and paint my nails for me. I remember wanting a head full of tiny braids. This was the 90s, and he spent hours of his Saturday afternoon braiding. We played with Barbies, and he actually came up with storylines for them and put effort into it. On the other hand, he also never kept me from doing tomboy things. I raised baby calves, helped him wash cars, and worked on the lawnmower. When I was little, we had daddy-daughter dates where we would go to Chuck E. Cheese or mini-golfing. When I was in middle school and high school, we would go to the pool together and lay out and talk. A few years ago, we got tickets to see Miley Cyrus Banger's tour and got drunk together and had the best time. He was always patient with anything regarding my self-esteem. He helped me lose weight when I was in middle school and waited for hours for me to get ready before we went somewhere, and never, ever commented on anything other than to compliment me. The biggest thing I think that he did, and still does, is to encourage my independence. He helped me through school and constantly reminds me that I am a strong woman and that I don't ever have to get married if I don't want to. My mother used to put a lot of pressure on me to settle down. He is my friend along with being my dad. I'm forever thankful for him. Edit. My first gold. Thank you. Was not expecting that. And thank you all for the comments. I'm gonna send my dad this post so he can see what an awesome response it got and how special he really is. I truly am incredibly lucky to have him, and I recognize that. I already tell him how much I appreciate him all the time, and my first big tattoo was a portrait of us together. But I think he will really love seeing this. Also, to all the dads who have commented saying they hope they can be like my dad, if you try to be, you will be. He put effort into our relationship, and that's what matters.